1 second. No, guys, don't record yet. I didn't want to record just yet. I was going to record. Let me pause the, okay, hang on 1 second. I'm just going to pause the recording. I think that it's that this work is hard and it's deep and it's something that we're not used to, but it's really made me more determined to kind of build this side of the business. This is like I said to somebody today, they said they were having a really hard time focusing and concentrating on the material. So before we start today, I just want to say that if that's you, if you're like, God, I had to go back and watch it several times, that makes me so happy, because honestly, the reason why we say that you have to read the PDF when you do one of our programs 3 times is because I learned years ago that whenever you do the work that we're doing here, you have to watch the material at least 3 times in order to be able to integrate it fully. And so I would suggest that you go back and you watch these masterclasses again and again and again, because you will get more and more and more and more out of them every single time you go through them. And you'll notice more and you'll have a deeper and deeper understanding of the concepts being taught here. And that is only going to be able to help you in your life. But I really do hope that we can build this like emotional gym. But you have to understand, if you are struggling with the concept sometimes, or you find yourself falling asleep, or you find your brain just isn't computing what it is that I'm saying, don't worry about it too much. Just move on and think, well, I can go back and watch it again, because the concepts that we're discussing here aren't easy concepts. They're not like, I'm not just giving you bog standard strategies of do this and don't do this. I'm giving you very abstract concepts that require a lot of evaluation and deep thinking. And that's hard. It's like going to the gym. It's freaking hard. And it takes a lot of brain power. And I have been so tired over the last couple of days teaching as well, the material, because like, actually I was at the yard this morning and Natasha, who works for me, said, are you okay? Like, have you got a cold or something? Your voice sounds thick. And I said, no, I'm just exhausted. I'm really, really tired today. And it just like, I have this fatigue, and I'm always the same whenever I teach, because it takes so much emotional strength to be able to teach and to think. They say that like chess players burn, like grandmaster chess players burn up to 6,000 calories in a chess match. And all they're doing is sitting and moving their fingers around, but it requires a huge amount of energy to think about these concepts. So if you're in any way worried that you're not managing to keep up, or you're falling asleep or whatever, don't be worried about it, because it takes a lot of energy to get your head around a lot of what I'm teaching. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we begin. So I think we have quite a lot of people on today. What are we going to talk about? Well, today is called commitment to reality. This is one of my favorite concepts to teach. And I've actually woven a little bit of responsibility in there too, because I think that if all of us could just understand responsibility in the way that it is designed, we would lead much more productive and happier lives. So today we are going to talk about commitment to reality, which is going to pull together the 2 concepts that we have been discussing in day 1 and day 2. And then tomorrow is our final day together. And we're going to pull the whole thing together and give you some really good strategies for moving forward, for exercises. A lot of you have been asking, well, this is great having this understanding, but how can I apply this to my life and use this moving forward? Well, tomorrow I'm going to give you some exercises that you will be, that anytime you find yourself being, you find the disintegration is on the surface, or you find yourself being fearful or angry, or not choosing your best self in that moment, not experiencing joy, because really that's the whole goal of life. And what we're doing here is to experience joy. So anytime you find yourself unable to experience joy, you're going to be able to go through the exercise that I'm going to give you tomorrow. And that exercise is going to help you to move forward and to bring you back to joy. And it was actually Laura Hutchinson's idea, so I'm going to give her credit for it. Although I was thinking of it anyway, but I realized actually how necessary it is. And I got a new desk. Now I can't fit my legs under it, so I'm going to try and get comfy. Okay, so let's get going. Just check everything. We are committed to sound. We are committed to the recording. We're all here. We're committed to reality, and we're ready to go. So commitment to reality. In every single moment, we are choosing. I'm just going to read from my notes before I get into it. And by the way, we have a PDF download for you today as well. Laura's going to upload it to the group after the class is over. In every single moment, we are choosing. We are where we are because of the choices we have made. We are more than happy to accept responsibility and recognition for situations we like and that support the light side or socially acceptable side of us that, society has deemed that is good. But when it comes to addressing the dark side that we do not deem socially acceptable and we dislike, we want to abnegate responsibility. So what I mean by this is, have you ever noticed that whenever someone, like, I was thinking about how I was going to teach this today, and I was thinking about, the tones that your parents use. I love to take things back to childhood because that's really where all of our disintegrations come from, is from childhood. Before we reach cognition, which for boys usually happens around anywhere between 12 and 14. For girls, it can be anywhere between 11 and 14, or even 18, actually, for some children who reach puberty later than others. But whenever the brain goes through puberty, something happens and it starts to become more cognitive. And what that means is the brain can start to make relationships between things. So it can start to say, oh, that happened because of this, or that happened because of this. But have you ever noticed how a child, like little children, sometimes, because they really don't understand cause and effect, or they don't understand the relationship between things, they can lie to you, and they'll lie to you, like, to say that someone's run around with a £20 note in his pocket, right? And that he's been at his friend's house, and when you were there yesterday, you saw a big pile of cash sitting on the shelf, and that your son was there playing at that house yesterday, and the next thing he's got a £20 note in his pocket, and you say to him, where did you get that £20 note? And he goes, I found it on the street whenever I was walking to the shop. And to him, it seems completely logical, but one, he wasn't walking to the shop because he's too young. Two, the likelihood of finding a nice, crisp, folded £20 note on the street walking to the shop is unlikely. And three, he was at his friend's house and you saw a pile of cash on the shelf, right? So as an adult, you can make relationships between things. Kids can't make those relationships. That's why they say the most absurd things, because they can't see how this causes this and this causes this, right? That's why whenever our parents punish us or yell at us, or our teachers or people close to us, and it triggers our fight or flight, we start making relationships between things that aren't true. We see my mom's face and we go, I am a bad person. She's angry because I spilt the milk. No, your mom's angry because she never learned to control her emotions. She's having a bad day. She didn't get very much sleep last night. She has a newborn baby and she's extremely stressed. It's nothing to do with you and everything to do with how she's feeling on the inside. But whenever you're a little child, you don't understand that, right? So you make it mean things that it isn't. But have you ever noticed how, like, try this on for a second. So your parents, so you're like, not even you, a little child gets hold of a pen. Okay. 5-year-old gets hold of a marker. And what do kids do whenever they get hold of a marker and they're unsupervised? They draw on walls, right? We all know that this is a possibility. That child, once they get hold of a pen and they're in a room where there's a wall, that it's likely they're going to draw on walls. Anyone who has kids here, I am sure, has had their walls drawn on at some point in the house, because they're just blank canvases to children. Why would they not draw on the walls? So can you imagine two different parents, two different sets of parents? In one family, they're extremely artistic. Okay. They value art. In fact, the father, he is an artist, and the mother's an aspiring artist. They have art all over the house. They visit art galleries when they go on vacation. Okay. And so one day their child gets hold of a pen and draws on the wall. Okay. And they draw this really parochial drawing of, mom, dad, little kid or whatever, and stick figure with, the legs coming out of the big head. And these parents come home and they go, who did this? Right? Does that sound like a good tone or a bad tone? Who did this? Well, the child hears that tone and the child goes, I did it. It was me, because they understand by the tone of the parent's voice that this is a good thing, what they've done. Okay. And whenever it's a good thing, the child is more than happy to take responsibility. Okay. And you could have a child in another family, and this family is not artistic, because these parents are super happy, by the way, because they see the potential of this child that's drawn on. They don't even care that it's a wall that the child is drawn on. All they see is artistic potential, and that supports their value, right? So they're happy by what they see because it makes them feel happy on the inside. You could have another set of parents who are much more controlling over their environment. They're much more fearful. They like things to be in order and kept just neat. And they believe that children need to learn between good and bad. And they come home and a child is drawn on the wall and their tone goes, "Who did this?" Do you think the child wants to go, "It was me"? No, right? The child goes, "Do I admit that it was me?" Doesn't sound good. That's a scary tone. Admitting it was me is not seeming like a very good idea right now. So the child does not want to admit responsibility. So the parent turns to the child and says, "Was this you?" And the child goes, "No, it wasn't me." But of course it was the child, right? The parent knows it was the child. So the child abdicates responsibility. So this is how we learn whenever we're children, right? We learn that responsibility is either a good thing or responsibility is a bad thing by how much we are punished or rewarded. So the thing about it is responsibility is just responsibility. It's neither good nor bad. You are responsible for the choices you make. I am responsible for the choices I make. I am responsible for the effects of the choices that I make. If I pick up a pen and I draw on a wall and now there's a drawing on a wall, I am responsible for that, whether my parents like it or not. But whenever we're little kids, we don't understand this. All we want is to stay safe and stay comfortable and stay happy. And when my parent comes at me with a very threatening tone, I don't want to admit responsibility for this bad thing that has now occurred. So it makes me want to abnegate responsibility. Now, the problem is, like I said yesterday, we're all just little kids running around, little fucked up kids running around in adult bodies. So whenever we grow up, because we never go back and re-examine the belief structure we build as children, we make a lot of our decisions as adults based on the feelings that we had whenever we were children. So and that means that in some instances, responsibility is a really good thing. And I'm happy to take it and work if they say, "Oh, who was it did this amazing thing and made all this money for the company?" You're like, "Me, it was me." Or in my work, if Kim comes in and starts pulling shit out from under the sink in the kitchen and goes, "For God's sake, who put 3 empty soap containers under the sink?" Laura goes, "Was it fuck? Do I say it was me or do I not say it's me?" So Laura chooses to say nothing and then fess up at a later date. So for those of you who were here the other day, that was quite a funny story. And actually you'll laugh because then the soap in the bathroom was finished yesterday when he had a wee tiny bit in it. And Laura was working. I popped into her office and I was like, do you want to keep this just in case we need it in the future? That was the most ludicrous part of it. Just in case we might run out of soap in the future and we need these tiny little bits at the bottom. That's a disintegration, guys, by the way. Okay, just so you know. So anyway, that is how we choose to take responsibility or not take responsibility. But you don't take responsibility or not take responsibility. You are responsible for every single thing that happens in your life, whether you like it or not. Denying the fact that you're responsible doesn't mean that it's not true. But unfortunately, many of us want to believe that if we deny responsibility and we blame someone else, or we say, my favorite, "I didn't know, therefore I am not responsible. I did not know there." I said to my kids all the time, "I did not know, therefore I am not responsible," is not applicable here. Just because you didn't know this would be the effect and you don't like the effect doesn't mean you're not responsible. So I'm going to get somewhere with this, I promise. I have been starting with stories, but I wanted to give you a bit of data first before we really got into it. So the 2 reasons why we, what have I said here? By addressing the dark side, so we want to abnegate responsibility. Why do we do this? 2 reasons. Our parents weren't evolved enough to teach us the lessons of responsibility, but how far we can see our responsibility in something is how successful we will be as a human being. So whenever anything happens in my company, even if it happens in America, right? And it's something that wasn't good, it's something that I wouldn't have chosen. The first question I ask myself is, how am I responsible for this? And people in the company have said to me before, "But Kim, there's no, you're not responsible. I'm responsible." I'm like, no, understand. This is my company. I am responsible for every single thing that happens in my company. Every single thing. So even if it's something I don't like, even if it's something I wouldn't have chosen, even if destruction was caused, I will always look at where I am responsible. As in, like, not that I caused the destruction, but maybe I didn't give someone a piece of data. Maybe I didn't see someone's limitation. Maybe I hired someone to do a job and then didn't supervise them correctly. I'm always looking at, how am I responsible? That is what successful people do. The second reason that we try to abdicate responsibility is that our parents were disintegrated and they rewarded or punished us based on their feelings and emotional reactions to the situations. When they loved something, we were happy to take responsibility. But when something bad happened, we didn't want to take responsibility because we got punished. Learning to take responsibility in all areas of your life, both good and bad, is directly related to how successful you will be in overcoming your negative behaviors, which is actually what we're talking about here. So I want to introduce two concepts to you, okay, before we move on. The first one is punishment out of integrity, and the second one is punishment in integrity. Now, those of you who have listened to my podcast in the past will probably have heard me talk about this. Let me take a wee drink. So punishment in integrity. This is the type of punishment that most of us are used to. It's the type that we were brought up with. It's when someone has an emotional reaction to something and wants to punish you to make the bad feeling go away. It is a discharge of pain. So the example of that would be the one that I used, which is child gets hold of a pen and draws on the walls. Parent gets very angry and spanks the child, causing the child pain. Child does not know why drawing on the walls is not a good thing, and they think that they are bad and wrong. Children cannot separate their personhood from their action. That's something I just want to talk about for a very brief second, is because a lot of us here have kids, and so it's important to recognize this, or even grandkids. Children can't separate themselves from the things they love and the things they do. So when you punish a child for doing something, they think that they are bad. And if they love something, say they love playing their Xbox, right? But you have an emotional reaction to every time they're playing their Xbox because you've been trained by society to believe that screen time is bad and damaging your children. FYI, do you know that years ago, whenever they brought in books to schools, parents went up in revolt because they said that these books would damage the children? Every single time evolution happens and the new generation comes in, the thing that they're into is deemed bad and unacceptable by the people who don't understand the technology or don't understand the new thing that's been brought in. So people used to say the same thing about books as they're now saying about technology. Technology is not harming your kids, I'll tell you now. So if you punish your child though for, say they love their Xbox, right? And you punish them for, they're like, oh my God, that thing's going to ruin you. You're always on that bloody Xbox. I can't get you off this freaking computer game. They don't understand that you're punishing. Well, first of all, they don't understand you're having an emotional reaction and you're punishing the Xbox. They think that a part of them must be bad because they love this thing and it brings them so much joy. But you're saying this thing is bad. So that must mean they are bad because they love this thing. And if this is bad, a part of them is bad. That's what you do to children every time you punish them for the things they love. We are all human and we all do bad things, but that doesn't mean that we are bad. It means that as a result of our choices, sometimes bad things happen and value is destroyed. If this is the case, it is important to teach the child how value was destroyed, but not in a way that triggers their fight or flight and hurts them. So whenever we punish someone, our intent is always to inflict emotional or physical pain in order to change their behavior in the future. So I see you doing something. I don't like the thing you're doing. It causes me pain because it triggers a part of myself that I don't like. So I want to inflict emotional or physical pain on you to stop you from doing that thing so I can feel okay. Self-punishment is this as well. There's a lot of people here who self-sabotage and then they go into this loop of self-punishing, thinking that in some way that's going to correct their behavior. Because whenever they were kids, they were taught that whenever something happens that is bad, you punish. And therefore that's all they learn. So they punish themselves and they think, if I can just make myself bad enough, if I can just hurt myself enough, I will stop doing this bad thing. It never works. Okay. Inflicting emotional or physical pain on someone to control or change their behavior never works. And you have to understand the intent behind that. The intent behind that is to make me feel better. Because if you're a better human and you're not doing the bad thing, I can feel better. Do you understand? It's not ever about teaching the person a lesson that is good for them. It's always about what's good for us. That's punishment out of integrity. The second type of punishment is punishment in integrity. This is where the punishment fits the crime and the person understands and agrees to the punishment. By the way, I've written all of these notes in today's download, so you don't need to take notes on this. And sometimes when you take notes, you're not listening to what I'm saying. So therefore you're not fully, you'll miss, you won't fully integrate the material. So I would recommend, rather than taking notes, you go back and watch this a couple of times. So punishment in integrity is where the punishment fits the crime and the person understands and agrees to the punishment. There is no emotion involved and the punishment is well thought through and considered. A really good example of this is a few years ago, several years ago, my daughter's now 13. Whenever she was about, I want to say 8 or 9, maybe. She was old enough to walk to the corner shop. So she must have been about 9, I would say. The corner shop is like literally same side of the road, just around the corner, in case any of you are judging me for being a bad parent. Just letting you know that the corner shop is just around the corner. And she had a friend over to play one day, and she called me. I think she was at home, obviously, with the housekeeper, Lorraine. And she called me on the phone. She said, Ava and I want to go to the shop. Can we take some money out of the tin in the kitchen? We always have a tin in the kitchen, which always had cash and stuff in it for people to use or whatever, or for paying people who come to the house. And I said, yes. I said, that's fine, you can. But she said, how much can we take? And I said, there's a £20 note in there. I said, don't take the £20 note. You can take some of the change. And I didn't specify how much change. I just said, you can take some of the change. And she said, okay, no problem. Thanks so much. So I got back. No, so then I got home later. She rang me later, or I was chatting to her later, and I said, how did you get on? Did you go to the shop? She goes, oh yeah, it was fantastic. And she started to tell me all of the things that they had done. We went to the corner shop, and then did you know that there's a sandwich shop down there, and you can get like sandwiches and cups of tea, and there's a charity shop as well. And Ava and I was brilliant. We went into the sandwich shop, and we got like a sandwich and we got like a cup of tea, but the tea was so hot, it was scalding, like we couldn't even eat, and we ended up having to throw it in the bin. But then, we went into the corner shop, and then we got some crisps in the corner shop. And then we went in to the charity shop, and Mommy, do you know you can buy loads of stuff in the charity shop really cheap? You can get I got like a cardigan and a dress, and Ava got like a pair of high heeled shoes. And I'm thinking, all of this on from the change and the bottom of the till. Or the bottom of the till, the bottom of the tin. So this is how kids, that I was saying in the beginning, kids can't make rational, connections between things, but adults can. So I said to her, wow, that sounds like an amazing day. Where did you get all that money? And she went, and she obviously suddenly thought, shit. And she said, just from the tin. And I said, really? Did you take the £20 note? No, didn't take it. And I said, really? I said, because I know there was only maybe £4 change in there. And there's no way you could have got all that stuff on from the change. And she said, no, we didn't. No, we didn't take it. And I said, Maya. And she was like, no. I said, Maya, this is on the phone. I wasn't angry at all. And I said, Maya, did you take the £20 note? I said, because there's no way. I showed her the reality of what she's saying. There is no way you could have, because I understand the cost of things. You could have got a sandwich and a cup of tea and stuff in the charity shop and crisps from the corner shop on the change, from the change that was in the bottom of the tin. And she went, well, yes, okay, we did take the £20, but it wasn't me. I swear to God, it wasn't me. It was Ava, Mommy, honestly, Ava was so dying to go to the shop. Like she said to me, just take it. Like your mom will never know. It'll be okay. We'll do it. And she started going into this like, whatever. And I said, okay, so you did take the 20. I said, okay, so we're going to talk about this whenever I get home. So long and short of it is I got home. And I knew that it wasn't Ava who so here's what I did. I tried her on. I imagined being 9 years of age, and I imagined how I would feel. And I imagined what her intent was, because what she had done was stealing. Okay. She'd stolen £20. She had agreed to me. She wasn't going to take it. She'd asked permission. I'd given her a boundary. She'd taken the 20 anyway. So she had effectively stolen £20 from me, and they spent the entire lot. Like there was no change. So rather than have an emotional reaction, I didn't have an emotional reaction, but rather than punish her, I sat her down later on and I said, okay, so let's talk about what happened. And so she went into the whole, it wasn't me, it was Ava. Ava told me to, Mommy, I would never do that. I know you told me to take it, and I'm so sorry that I did, but I promise I wouldn't have done it if Ava hadn't have made me do it. Ava made me do it. And I said to her, really? Because I said, I'll tell you how it would have been for me. Can I tell you how I would have felt if I were you? I said, I'll tell you, here's why I don't think it was Ava made you do it. And she's like, okay. And so I said to her, because I said, if I was your age, I said, I know that I would have been so excited to have my friend around to play. And whenever, the freedom of being able to go to the shop, like, like big girls, by yourselves. And I said, I know that I would have just looked in that tin and thought, I really just want to take the 20, because if I take the 20, we can do all these exciting things, and I can get like, all of this stuff, and I can like treat my friend. Because I said, I'm sure you see me, buying things for people and taking, paying for dinners and taking people out. And I'm sure you would just love to do that too. And if I were you, that's how I would be feeling. And that's why I would have taken the 20. And she went, okay, yes, I did, Jigga. That's exactly why I did it. I just wanted to be really nice to you, but I just thought it was really nice. I'm sorry for lying to you. And it all just came out, right? So I did two things. First of all, I tried her on. I was like, how would it feel for me if I was a 9-year-old girl with my best friend round and I'm going to walk to the shop? And that's exactly what I would want to do, right? Her intent wasn't to steal. Her intent wasn't to do anything bad. Her intent was just to go out and have a good time with her friend. But that doesn't mean that destruction wasn't caused. Because if I said, oh, okay, darling, well, look, that's totally fine. Thank you for owning up to me. No problem at all. Maya would have learned it's okay to steal, because nothing bad happens when you steal. That would have been the lesson. I never want my kids to learn that lesson. So just because I didn't punish her or get upset or angry with her for what she had done, didn't mean that what she had done wasn't bad or a destruction of value. She was not bad, but the act was bad. Do you see the difference? And so I said to her, I explained to her what stealing was. And I said to her, you stole the money. And she said, no, but I didn't. And I said, well, you did. And I said, here's why you did. And I explained to her what stealing is. Stealing is taking something from someone else without permission. And she said, okay. So then she said, okay, I did steal the money. And I said, and because of that, I now don't have the £20. And I said, so we need to figure out a way to repair back the value, repair the damage. So she said, okay, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I think that maybe you shouldn't get pocket money. She was getting like a £5 a week pocket money. You shouldn't get pocket money for the next 4 weeks to pay back the £20. And she said, okay, yes, I agree to that. And I said, but but because it was stealing, I do think there should be one thing further. I said, I think that you should, because the money wasn't really that important to her, the £5 a week. And I said, but she needed to feel the pain of what she did. And I said to her, I think that you should think of a self-imposed consequence or a penance for you to take on that, for you to feel the pain of what you did. And she said, and I said, so think of something. She said, okay, I agree. And so she was totally up for this. Like, she was just so happy she wasn't, getting into trouble. But well, I don't know if she was happy or not, because my kids have never gotten into trouble. But she said, I said, think of something you love. And she said, I really love Starbucks. And she said, what if I don't get Starbucks for a month? Now, Starbucks was one of the things that we used to do whenever the kids were younger and I was a stay-at-home mom. We used to drive, we used to go and get drive-through Starbucks quite regularly, and they all had their drinks that they loved. And we used to go maybe once or twice a week. And this was a real treat for the kids, on the way back or to somewhere. They loved going through the drive-through at Starbucks. So I said, a month? Do you not think a month is too much? And she said, no, I won't get Starbucks for a month, and that'll be my self-imposed consequence. And I said, okay, honey, no problem. And that child stuck to that consequence. And it was so hard for me, because every time we went to Starbucks, because I could have avoided going to Starbucks. I probably did avoid going a few times because I didn't want to make it any harder. I didn't want to torture her. But when the boy said, can we go to Starbucks? I'll never forget the first time we went through, Maya was like, are we going to Starbucks? And like, she's only 9. And I said, yes, honey. I said, we are. And so we went through Starbucks, and I expected her to be like, it's not fair. I want one. Like, why can't I have one? But because this was a self-imposed consequence that she had decided for herself, she sat there and the boys ordered. And I said, you're okay, Maya? And she was like, no, I'm okay. And she sat, but she wasn't suffering. She was sad, but she wasn't like trying to make me feel sorry for her, take pity on her. She was just sad. She felt the pain of what she had done, of the money that she had stolen. And so a month went by, it got easier and easier and easier. Every time we went to Starbucks, we only went maybe 4 or 6 times in the month. Each time it got easier and easier. And at the end, she was totally okay with it. She would say, how many more weeks until I can get a Starbucks? And then whenever her 4 weeks was up and we went back to Starbucks, it was so sweet for her. She was like, yeah, we're going to have Starbucks again. And she was so happy that she had gone through the penance of not having her Starbucks. And then, and she had it again after a month. This is what punishment in integrity is. It is so much fucking harder, guys. And I know I swear a lot, and I apologize to those who are offended by it, but it really just helps me to be emphatic about what I'm saying. This type of punishment is so much harder. Parenting the way I parent is so much harder. It's so much easier just to yell at your kids and spank them and tell them they're wrong and have emotional reactions. And just like, because emotional reactions and punishing your kids and even saying, stop that, sit down, be quiet. It's all just a discharge of pain. It's just like pain, 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 pain. We're walking around every day being triggered, 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 triggered. We're like, tss, 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 tss. We're literally discharging pain all over the place. And the worst place that we can ever discharge it to is on our children. This should be like a parenting workshop or something, shouldn't it? So here's what happened. I wanted Maya to learn that stealing was bad, right? But I would never, ever have been able to teach her this by hurting her, right? Hurting her would have just caused a disconnect between us. But after this experience, we were closer than ever. Whenever you hurt and punish someone, you cause a disconnect. When you sit down and talk and do the hard thing, it's harder, but it's so much more rewarding in the long run. I always teach my kids and everyone who works for me, and if I always laugh and I'll start to say it and they go, oh, and they repeat it, I'll say, your success in life will be determined by the amount of difficult conversations you're willing to have. And anytime my kids are like, but I just said, well, why don't you just say to her? And they're like, oh, I don't want to. Or even in work, it happens when someone will come into my office and be like, what do you think I should do? I'm like, go and have a conversation with the person. They're like, oh, and I'm like, your success in life. And they're like, will be determined by the amount of difficult conversations you're willing to have. It's a mantra that we have. And it's so true. Causing physical pain to someone is always destructive. And it is usually just a way to make ourselves feel better, a way that we can discharge pain. It is never about the other person, and it is always reactive in nature. In order to become more evolved human beings and transcend our limitations, we must stop being reactive like animals. I was leading my 2 horses out to the field this morning after riding them. And, Peter kind of nudged his way into Big Cat, and Big Cat leaned over and like lunged at him with his teeth. And Peter was like, yeah, and skittered to the side, right? That's because they're horses and they don't have the capacity for reflection and thought that human beings have. So if Peter gets in Big Cat's way, he's going to lunge at him and he's going to try and bite him, right? Unfortunately, that's how most human beings act as well, right? We lunge out with our words rather than our teeth, and we discharge pain all over the place because we're not evolved. If you want to evolve yourself, if you want to stop self-sabotaging and finally become successful in any area of your life, you have to commit to being more evolved, to thinking more deeply, and to stop being reactive. Freedom lies in the capacity to pause between stimulus and response. Okay. Big Cat does not have freedom because he doesn't have the capacity to pause and think on his actions. You do. And if you don't do it, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're choosing to stay stuck. Okay. Now that you know, okay, you've taken the blue pill by showing up to these masterclasses. Now that you know you have the capacity to pause, anytime you choose not to, you're choosing the bad thing. You're choosing the thing that you say you don't want. And you can't say that you don't want it anymore because you know that you're choosing it. Punishment is never about the other person. It's always about us, and it's always reactive in nature. I think I've already said that. The key to overcoming self-sabotage is develop our critical thinking skills and to recognize how we are choosing in every single moment so we can choose better. Let me try and finish my coffee. So why do we do this? Okay. Why? Because of our intent. Okay. We're not bad people. We punish others and we punish ourselves, and we were punished by our parents, not because they actually wanted to hurt us, which is what we believe, but because we want to feel better. Even if you punish your husband or your loved one and you think, oh, he's really made me mad, so I just want to hurt him. The only reason why you want to hurt him is so you can feel better after you've hurt him. Most of us just want to feel better, and that is why we act. We eat because it feels so good. We binge because we want to comfort ourselves. We punish others to make ourselves feel better and discharge pain. We were punished as children because our parents also wanted to discharge pain. Human beings are always looking for the easiest path. We always just want to feel better. And that is why we act the way we act. So you have to start forgiving yourself. Sometimes, however, I've written here, human beings always choose the easiest path. And sometimes the hard path is the easiest path. For me, doing the easy thing is hard and doing the hard thing is easy. See, if you told me that I could like take an entire weekend and lie on the couch and binge Netflix and eat pizza and chips and ice cream. See, even if you told me that nothing would happen if I did that, I wouldn't put on any body fat and I would still be as fit and healthy as I was. There would be no negative. If you could like take away all the negative consequences of doing that, I still wouldn't want to do it. My butt cannot hit the chair for any longer than I would say 3.5 seconds before I need to do something. If I'm sitting down, I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling my Facebook groups. I am constantly busy. I like to be busy from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed. If I don't go to bed completely exhausted and wrung out and satisfied from the day, I don't feel like it was worthwhile. Whereas my husband takes life at a much easier pace. And I look at him and I'm like, if I had your life, I would actually, I think I would die. I cannot imagine a more boring life than going to the gym, doing a cold plunge, having a sauna, playing a little tennis, doing a little gardening. That's how my husband spends his life. And he is deliriously happy with it. I would literally go bonkers. Doing the hard thing and juggling millions of things at the same time is easier for me. So human beings always choose the easiest path for them, not necessarily the easiest task. To evolve any form of self-sabotage, you must start to recognize how you cause yourself to be in every single situation that you are unhappy with. You're like, say what? Say what, Kim? We have this thing in the company where if somebody's saying something that we don't want to hear, we go like this: peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. I do it with Mark Getty all the time when he's like telling me like, you need to do this and be more consistent. I'm like, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Don't want to hear what you're saying. So this is where we're going with this. You're like, this is all very nice talking about punishment and blame. And I'm definitely going to try not to punish my kids anymore. How does this relate to self-sabotage? To evolve any form of self-sabotage, you must start to recognize how you cause yourself to be in every single situation that you're unhappy with. That's why we talked about responsibility first, because you have to understand I am responsible for every single thing that happens in my life. Every decision I make, every effect I get that I don't like, I am responsible, whether I like to recognize it or not. Because if you're unhappy, because even if you're unhappy, right, you're choosing the unhappiness because you're getting something out of it. I was trying to think of a story to illustrate this point because I think it's important, because whenever I tell this to people, they go, no, they think of like some of them are in a really, really bad situation, perhaps like a really abusive work situation, say, and they're desperately unhappy about it and they suffer about it all the time and they talk about it all the time and they're just not happy with their situation. And then I ask them, well, why are you choosing it? They're like, I'm not choosing it. Like I have to go to work. If I don't pay the bills, then nobody, like, then I'll lose my house. And I'm like, okay, so that's why you're choosing the unhappiness. Now, I'm not choosing to be unhappy. It's a shit situation, right? But you're choosing to stay in the situation. So therefore you're choosing it. And it's really, really hard concept for people to get their head around. But it reminded me of whenever I started working with a coach years and years ago, 20 years ago. And she was brilliant. And I remember she, at the time it was more than 20 years ago, I think. I was with the rich boyfriend that I was talking about a couple of times before. And it wasn't that one, actually. It was a different rich boyfriend. A couple of rich boyfriends now I think about it. Whenever I got together with him, I knew that he and his friends used to hire sex workers, right? Prostitutes. I don't know whether you're allowed to call them that anymore. Apparently it's sex workers. I'm not sure. I want to be respectful. So to me, they were always prostitutes. So they used to go away, on like to Mexico or fucking Caribbean or wherever, I don't know, these exotic holidays, because they were really, really wealthy. And they used to go away and they used to, you know, go on these boat parties and whatever. And they used to bring on a squad of sex workers and they would have all had these sex parties, right? Didn't bother me at all. I'm totally okay with whatever choices people want to make in their lives. And that didn't bother me at all. But whenever I got together with this guy, I expected him to be faithful to me, as you would. And I remember then we were having a conversation and he had gone away on a boys' trip. And I'd been a bit kind of funny about him going away on the boys' trip because it was a situation where I was thinking he could be unfaithful. And he was like, no, 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 absolutely not. You know, I won't be, you know, I'm completely committed to you and whatever. And we've been together for a while. So I trusted him. And so then he and I went away on holiday after that. And he was telling me about the trip that he had taken and how they were all on this boat and this yacht and about how, you know, his brother and his cousin and their friend had brought on this, you know, these girls. And he was telling me, you know, and I was like, because I was into it, right? I was like, because my brain started ticking and I was thinking, really? But because I was okay with it, he got more and more into the story and he was like, yeah, oh my God, and they did this and they brought, you know, and these girls were there and, you know, and such was doing this and this person was doing this and, oh my God, and whatever. And he kind of was getting more and more into the story. And as he got more and more into the story, it dawned on me. I was like, I tried it on and I thought, there is no, knowing this guy like I do, there is no fucking way. He went away on a boat with fucking cocaine and whatever else and alcohol and all of these prostitutes. And he did not shag one of them, not in a million years. And so I said to him, I said that to him. I said, there is no way you didn't. And he said, no, I didn't. And I said, tell me the truth. I said, I swear I won't be mad. I just want you to tell me the truth. And he said, okay, I did. And I remember like my stomach, like just literally like, I was like, oh, never forget the feeling. Like it was like literally someone punched me in the gut. I genuinely thought I would be okay with it. I really genuinely thought I would have been okay with it because it didn't mean anything until he told me. And then when he told me, I was just like, and it took me a while to process the information. And we were on our way on vacation. And I remember we went away on vacation. We were away for about a week and I had to really pretend everything was okay, but everything wasn't okay. Like I really wasn't feeling okay with it. And I couldn't even recognize at the time that I was angry with him. I was really angry. And shortly after that, I started working with a coach and it did affect our relationship after that. But here's the thing. I told him if he told me it was going to be okay. And he told me, so I wasn't willing to go back on my word and go, well, actually, no, it's not okay. But actually now on reflection, I could have said to him, you know what? I thought I was going to be okay with it. But that was until I got the information. And now I've realized, actually, I'm not okay with that. I apologize for thinking that I was going to be. It wasn't a lie. I genuinely thought I would be okay. I wasn't trying to trick you, but actually I'm not okay. If I had just been honest, we could have maybe had a conversation about it. But of course, I'd said that I didn't mind. I was going to be okay. So now I had to live up to that side of myself. So I took this hurt side that was angry and I packed it away. But it shaped how I interacted with him thereafter. And I just couldn't get over it. I wanted to get over it, but I just couldn't get over it. On reflection, how to get over it would have been to talk about it with him. But I took this hurt, upset part of myself and I packed it away because that's what we do. And that's why we self-sabotage. Okay. Because we pack it away and we don't look at it and we don't deal with it and we don't talk about it because that's painful. We think this is better. And so had I just brought it out and talked to him about it, we probably could have actually moved past it. That's why you have to revisit the painful situations in order to transform them. So anyway, I was talking to my coach one day and I said to her, I told her, and she was saying to me, it was about something else we were talking about. And she said, anytime you are in a situation, even one you're unhappy with, it's because you're choosing it. And I went, well, I don't think that's true. And she said, how is it not true? And I said, well, because I said, and she said, do you have an example? I said, yes, I have something that I'm unhappy with and I didn't choose it. And she said, okay, well, what is it? And I said, well, and I told her the situation. I said, I have this relationship and he, you know, and he promised he'd be faithful to me and we had an understanding and he went away and he slept with a prostitute. And she said, right. She said, did you know before, you know, did you know that he had slept with prostitutes before? And I was like, yes. And she said, okay, so you had the data. You had the data that the guy you're dating sleeps with prostitutes. And I went, yes. And she said, so why were you upset when he did it to you? Or why were you surprised? She said, why were you surprised when he did it to you? When he did it again? You knew that he did it. Why did you pretend that he wasn't who he was? And I went, well, because he shouldn't have done it to me. She said, no, that's your judgment. That's what you want to be true in reality. But in reality, you dated someone who sleeps with prostitutes. You knew he slept with prostitutes. And then you're somehow surprised when he did it again. Why did you have to deny who he was? And I was like, shit, I never looked at it that way before. And then she said, are you still in the relationship? And I said, yes. She said, why are you choosing to stay in the relationship? I was like, because he's rich. And I don't think I said that because I was still judging that part of myself. But really, I was like, because I get loads of nice things from him. I travel, we go to fucking yachts and boats, and I get clothes and dinners out. And, it was that disintegrated part of myself that was looking for freedom and safety. That's why I stayed with him. That's what I was going for. That's why I was choosing the situation that I thought I was unhappy with. I was unhappy with it, but I was still continuing to choose it because choosing it got me something. Until that moment, I had felt like a victim, powerless to change this awful thing that had happened to me. I was blaming my boyfriend for being who he was rather than looking at the fact that him sleeping with prostitutes was a possibility in our relationship. I completely denied the data. I had chosen to stay in the relationship because he was wealthy and fun, and the upsides outweighed the downsides. Also, remembering back to what I taught yesterday, my biggest issue was that I wanted to be taken care of financially. I always wanted to be around money because I thought it kept me safe. Because my dad used to freak out about money. For those of you who missed it yesterday, my dad used to freak out about money all the time. That used to scare the shit out of me. So I just thought if we had more money, the bad thing wouldn't happen. He wouldn't freak out. So whenever you have money, the freak out doesn't happen. Whenever you don't have money, the freak out happens. So I always tried to be around money because then I would be able to stay safe. So I chose to stay in the relationship because of this disintegration. Understanding that you are choosing situations that you're unhappy with is one of the most powerful recognitions that you can come to. And that is why we're doing this on day 3. If I had given you this on day 1, you guys would have been like, no, I'm not choosing my self-sabotage. I'm not choosing the situation I'm unhappy with. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. You are wrong. On day 3, you're a little more like, okay, might not like it, but she might have a point. Because being at cause is the most powerful situation you can put yourself in. When you blame, you give away all your responsibility. Or when you abdicate responsibility, you take away all your power to make changes in the future. Now, what people usually say to me at this point is they say, well, hang on a wee second, Kim. I hear what you're saying, but I was raped. And I did not choose that. And that is a really fucking awful situation that I'm unhappy with, and I didn't choose it. And my answer is no, you didn't. You're correct. You didn't choose it. But if you choose to continue, and you are a victim of that person, okay, in that situation, you are a true victim because your rights were taken away. A true victim is someone whose all of their rights are taken away. They're if you can, but even then you can still choose how you feel about it, which is very, very hard, I understand. But I did have someone say this to me once, and I hate using it as an example because it's very triggering for some people who've been in a similar situation, but it is the most extreme one I can think of. People will say, this girl said to me once, I was raped. I did not choose that. I said, no, you didn't. I said, but if you can at least take responsibility for all of the choices you made that put you in that situation, it makes you more powerful, not less. Because it got to the point where this girl was scared to leave the house because she couldn't understand how this had happened. She thought it was just something that had happened to her. But once I helped her to look at, I chose to get up in the morning. I chose to wear these particular clothes. I chose to enroll in this night class because I wanted to learn French. I chose to get the bus. I chose to, not get a taxi. I chose to go alone. I chose to, once she started looking at all of the things that she had chosen to put herself in that situation, she actually felt better about it. Because she was able to see how she could maybe choose differently in the future. And so, you might not be able to, you might not have chosen the thing that happened to you. I didn't choose for my boyfriend to sleep with a prostitute, but I chose to be in a relationship with a man, knowing it was a possibility, but denying it. If you're a woman, anytime you go out on the street at night, dark, when it's dark and alone, the possibility exists that you could be assaulted. It's a small possibility, but it exists. And to pretend that it doesn't is completely out of reality. The more you can look at the reality of a situation, the more you can look at all of the data of all of the things that could happen. Let's take it right back to starting a fitness program and what we talked about on Monday. I said, don't make a decision when you're feeling motivated. Set your alarm for 4:45 a.m. and get up and make a decision then about the fitness program you're going to start, because you're much more likely to make an informed decision because you have the data. And then once you've made the decision, think forward to all of the things that could go wrong. And you might not even be able to see all the possibilities because you've never done a fitness program before. You've never been to the gym. Like we're going away on Saturday to a villa in Marbella. We go to Marbella all the time and we book villas all the time. But more recently, we booked villas or apartments. So we're taking 10 people to Marbella. We booked this massive big villa. And because I've done it quite a few times before, I was able to ask Natalie, my assistant, to phone through to the rental company and find out exactly what plates there are. I said, I want pictures of all the cupboards. I want to know what serving dishes, what plates, what cups, what glasses, what glassware. I want to know what utensils there are. Is there a blender? How many towels do they provide? Do they provide beach towels? What cleaning services do they have? Because we're getting a housekeeper, we're bringing our own chef with us. But because I've been in lots of villas before and I've been like, shit, there's no beach towels. I would have thought there would have been beach towels, and then there's not. So we have to then call the company for beach towels, because I've been there and I've been like, shit, there's like one wooden spoon and there's no slotted spoon. Do you know how many villas I've stayed in? There's no slotted spoon. And you have no idea how much a slotted spoon is useful whenever you're on vacation. Or pasta. There's no strainer for the pasta. Whenever you're away with kids, you're always making fucking pasta. And so I have learned through doing this lots of times, the questions to ask to try to mitigate risk in the future. That is something you build over time. But you can also try to think ahead of all of the possible things that could go wrong, or that might not work, or that might hold you back, or might sabotage you in advance, so you can mitigate risk in advance, right? That's what a critical thinker does. That's what someone who is absolutely at cause with their decisions does. That is someone who takes full responsibility for everything in their life does. Someone who doesn't want to take responsibility, someone who isn't a producer, someone who isn't at cause with their decisions, will blame other people and say, well, you would have thought the bloody rental company would have had this, right? Now, I understand. It's easy to say, wow, that's interesting. I would have thought the rental company at least would have had beach towels, but they don't. So what are we going to do about it? But to blame the rental company is a complete misnomer, because I'm the one renting the villa. And if beach towels are important to me, then I need to ask, are there beach towels? Guys, there's people in the waiting room. Can a co-host let them in, please? So you have to take responsibility for your actions. But do we really choose to sabotage ourselves? This is where we're going with this. Some people are like, really? Okay, I get it. I hear what you're saying. This was a hard concept for me to get. Let me tell you, I was a big blamer. I was a big blamer when I was younger. I had a lot of right-wrong issues, always wanted to be right. And this was a hard one for me to get. So if you're finding this hard, or you're finding situations where you don't want to see where you're responsible, I totally understand. I get you. I was the same. Do we really choose to sabotage ourselves? Of course we do. But often we don't want to recognize it because we're scared about what it might mean about us as a person. Or we know that we are causing our own self-sabotage, but we aren't 100% honest or at cause about the process because we're scared to be. So a lot of times we want to say, I just can't control myself. Like, I don't know what happens. Like, I just sabotage myself. I eat one cookie and it turns into an all day binge. And I just don't know why. And whenever we say this, what we're implying is that some other side of us, like Jekyll and Hyde, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Mr. Hyde like took over our body. This bad dark side of us took over our body and just like possessed us for that whole day, while food just appeared in our hands and magically moved into our mouths. And it wasn't really us. And we don't know how it happened. It just happened, right? Because we don't want to acknowledge that we have this part of ourselves that craves to feel good, because that's why we do it. That's why we binge for the whole day, because we have pain in our bodies and we want the pain to go away. And so we stuff it down with one cookie, and the one cookie felt so good, even though it felt bad, it felt better than it felt bad. So we have another one and another one and another one, and we keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing until we feel sick. And then finally, the food doesn't feel good anymore, because that much food in our stomach doesn't feel good, that now it feels bad. But until it feels bad enough, we don't stop, because human beings always choose the easiest path, and we always choose what feels good. And in order to transform this and flip it to the other side, well, we'll get there. I'm not going to leave you hanging. And I have done this, like I said, this whole "it wasn't my fault" thing, because I've talked a lot about the story of how I got pregnant and how I met Ryan. And when I found out I was pregnant with Corey, my first child, I found out I was pregnant 8 weeks after Ryan and I got together, but I was already 7 weeks pregnant. So you do the math. And I adopted the narrative of how it wasn't my fault. I hadn't meant to get pregnant, of course. And because it was an accident, wasn't my fault. And whenever, like, I would say to people, because I was afraid of being judged, right? Like, I didn't want to be called a slut. Was a bit slutty when I was younger, I have to be honest. Still am, if I'm honest, but only with my husband. And so, I don't want to be branded a slut. Like, I'm pregnant like 7 weeks afterwards, after meeting my husband, or after meeting my boyfriend. And so I would say, like, people would say, or like, I remember somebody saying to me, like, "How did this happen?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how this happened. Like, just happened. Like, I didn't mean for it to happen." And I remember the business partner, the girl that I was in business with at the time, I remember her being like, whenever I told her I was pregnant, she was like, "Right. Okay. My goodness." And I remember saying, "Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just didn't mean for this to happen." Like, and she went, "What do you mean you didn't mean for it to happen?" So I didn't mean for it to happen. Like, I don't know how, I don't know how this happened. She was like, "You don't know how you got pregnant?" I said, "Well, I know how I got pregnant, but like, it was just," and she's like, "Were you using contraceptive?" And I was like, "Well, yes, but no, but I forgot to get it whenever I came back from LA, and but I never, honestly, listen, I've had sex loads of times, like when I've questionable times when I haven't like taken my pill and stuff, and I've never been pregnant before. So genuinely, I didn't mean for it to happen. I just didn't expect that it would happen." And I remember her saying to me, "Well, just because you didn't expect that it would happen, how did that mean it wasn't a possibility?" And I'm like, "But I didn't mean to." She's like, "I know you didn't mean to, but this is the little child, right? This is the little child who gets punished and therefore punishes that part of themselves." And they go, "I didn't mean to. Mommy, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." How many times did you say to your parents when you were younger, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to," hoping that they're going to forgive you for the bad thing that happened and not going to punish you, because your intent was always good. As a child, your intent is always good, right? But you don't know that. You don't know that your intent is good, or you don't know why you're being punished. You think that the bad part of you is being punished. You think that you are bad. That's why a little child says, "I didn't mean to." That's why adults say, "I didn't mean to," because we believe there's a part of us is bad, and that part of us is being punished. Because as kids, our parents didn't know to separate our action from our personhood, like I did with Maya. I separated her action from her personhood. She stole money from me, and she used it and had a great time with it. That doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means that she wanted to have a good time. And her wanting to have a good time caused her to do a bad thing. And she didn't even know. She did know when she took the money that she shouldn't be taking it. But she told herself it was okay, and she continued on. But there was a consequence to what she did. So rather than make her bad, I showed her that her action was bad, and that we were going to rectify the situation by punishing the action, not by punishing the person. And so what we do whenever we self-sabotage is we're like the little kid going, "But I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." It's like we don't even want to look at it. It's so terrifying to look at this decision that we've made that goes against the thing that we said that we want, because what if that means a part of us is bad? Part of you isn't bad. You are a very imperfect, very beautiful, very flawed human being. who's trying her very best to do better in life. And that's what you were trying to do when you were a little kid. You were just trying to figure it out, to have a good time, to find joy, and to be better. And that's what you are trying to do as an adult. That's why you're here. If anyone's still feeling bad about themselves now and what they do and still wanting to punish a part of themselves, you need to recognize that you've showed up here. You've paid $97 for this course and you had no bloody clue what it was going to be about. But you took this very valuable step towards making your life better. And that is highly commendable because we have 3,500 people in the group and we've only 350 people in this masterclass. And you are one of the 10% who's actually doing something towards making your life better. So you have to really give yourself a lot of credit for that. You have to congratulate yourself for the things you have done and stop punishing yourself for the things that you haven't, because your intent is always to feel good, even when you're sabotaging yourself, even when you're doing something destructive, even when you're binging all day, even when you're lying in bed and you know you should be at the gym, even when you're letting yourself off the hook and working on your business or your side hustle. Because you know what, life is tough and you probably work a full-time job at the minute and run around looking after kids and your husband and making meals and trying to do shopping and trying to support your family or your mother or your friends. And you're doing the best you can. You really are doing the best you can. And a lot of our inability to follow through in what we want for ourselves comes from us not looking at all the data, comes from us not looking at what it will mean for us to commit to this thing or make this decision. We don't mitigate risk in advance and then decide once we start getting data, whether or not it's still important enough for us to continue. When we fail, we make it mean that we are bad because we really didn't understand the concept of failure, which hopefully I've reframed for you now after these couple of days. Failure doesn't mean you're bad. Failure means you have a missing resource. Either it's a physical resource. It's something that you didn't have, an email, a piece of data, a conversation with a friend, or it's just like, wow, I had no idea that this was going to be so freaking difficult. I wasn't prepared for it. And actually, I don't have time for any more difficulty in my life right now. So I'm going to choose to stop doing what I'm doing because I just didn't know it was going to be so tough. Or it's an emotional resource, which then causes you to binge and self-sabotage or however other way that you do it. And these are the tools that I'm giving you to help overcome that. I wanted to keep my self-image intact. That's why I denied how I'd gotten pregnant. I wanted my business partner to still think I was the kind of person who was successful, hardworking, and independent, because that's the side of my crack that I deemed socially acceptable. I didn't want her to see my dark side because I didn't want to see my dark side. I didn't want to say, you know what? Now that I'm pregnant, I am so happy to be pregnant because it's all I've ever really wanted secretly is a baby and a family and to take care of people. That I had deemed that unacceptable. And so therefore I didn't want anyone else to see it. When she asked me how I chose to get pregnant, I was indignant. Of course I didn't choose. It just happened. But here's the thing. A truly successful, hardworking, and independent person looks at how they made things happen, not how they didn't. So I was like, I want her to see me as independent, hardworking, successful, a strong woman. Do you know what an independent, successful, hardworking, strong woman does? She says, oh shit, this bad thing happened. Let me look at how I caused this to happen and let me fix it. Or not fix it, or at least let me now evaluate the data so I can make better decisions moving forward. That's what a truly hardworking, successful, independent woman does. She doesn't pretend that it wasn't her fault. Interesting, isn't it? You might be thinking by now, I know that I self-sabotage. I am not in denial. Okay, Kim, I know I self-sabotage. I'm not pretending that I don't. So what I don't understand is why I do it. The secret to understanding why you do it is to look for how you made it happen, step by step. Okay, I sabotaged myself when I got pregnant. So, and I didn't mean to do it. Okay, but I did. So let's break it down step by step using the words I chose. This is one of the exercises you're going to do at the end. I chose to start my own company running NLP programs. I chose to ask for referrals. I chose to meet Ryan for coffee. I chose to get into a relationship with him. I chose to have sex with him knowing that my contraceptive pill had run out. I chose to deny the fact that I could get pregnant. One step further would be to ask myself why I chose these things. So let's look at it again. I chose to start running my own company. I chose to start my own company running NLP programs because I wanted to be rich and successful. I chose to ask for referrals because I was committed to running the business. I chose to meet Ryan for coffee because he seemed like a good fit for the business. I chose to get into a relationship with him because he was hot and intelligent and we had a chemistry. I chose to have sex with him knowing that my contraceptive pill had run out because he triggered something in me that felt safe. Because he told me he loved me the first weekend we were together. Because I felt safe and taken care of in a way I never had before. I chose to deny the fact that I could get pregnant because the feeling that I had when I was with Ryan was so strong, I didn't want to not have it. I had craved it for the longest time. So I chose that feeling over the reality of the situation, which was that I could get pregnant having sex without contraceptive. I chose not to look at the potential effects of my choices because I wanted the good feeling so badly. I remember being with Ryan in his apartment and it was like Valentine's Day that I came back. It was even worse, right? It was Valentine's Day. And I remember thinking, I'm not on the pill. I am not on the pill. I'm not on the pill. This could be like in my head, I'm going, I'm not on the pill. And I was like, fuck. Should I tell him? Should I not? Should I tell him? Should I not? I didn't tell him, right? For like 2 days that I hadn't taken my pill when I got back from LA. Now, just to caveat this, Ryan and I literally told each other we loved each other in the first weekend that we were together. And he asked me to marry him that weekend. Like we'd met each other on the Friday, had lunch on the Saturday, seen each other on a Tuesday, went to stay at his house on the Friday. So 2 weeks we'd known each other for. I basically moved in that weekend. He asked me to marry him on the Sunday. He wasn't like, get down on one knee, will you marry me? But he said that weekend, I've never felt this way about anyone. I want to marry you. And then a couple of days later, I said to him, Ryan, we've been having sex and I'm not on the pill. And he was like, really? And his eyes widened a bit and I went, yep. But even the fact that I felt safe to tell him like says a lot. And he was like, okay. And I said, but listen, it'll be totally fine because like I've done this loads and, and I've never been pregnant before. And he was like, okay, that's, whatever. But I didn't know about your monthly cycle and you're most fertile in the middle of your month. And I didn't even think to get all that data, right? I just was so caught up in the feeling of the moment. I was loving the love that I was feeling. I felt the safest that I've ever felt before. All of my disintegrations, all of this screaming little terrified girl that had just wanted love and to be taken care of her entire life. When I met Ryan, all of my dreams came true. And that's why I chose what I chose. And that's why I chose to ignore what could have happened as a result of my decisions. Making sense? This is why you ignore the effects of self-sabotage. The feeling you get from however you choose to sabotage is so comforting to you. You ignore the effects or potential consequences. It's not that you don't know they exist. You do. And pretending you don't is a lie. But you lie to yourself because you want what you want when you want it because it feels so good. This does not mean you're a bad person. It means you're human and you're flawed. The worst thing you can do is pretend that you don't know why you sabotage, or that not even you don't know why you're doing it, but that you're not doing it. You're doing it because it feels good. It feels good. Even if it feels bad afterwards, it feels good in the moment. You know how I know? Because human beings always want to feel good. It's what we want to feel every single day. It's what we chase. It's why we do what we do. It's why we choose what we choose. We just want to feel better. And there is nothing wrong with that. If you can take away anything from today's session, it is that you are imperfect. You are completely flawed, and your highest value is to feel good. And that's what it should be. That's what causes human beings to evolve. Do you know the 3 things that stimulate the pleasure centers of the brain? Eating, learning, and sex. You know why? Because we have to eat to stay strong to evolve. We have to learn in order to evolve. And we have to have sex to evolve. Those 3 things stimulate the pleasure centers of the brain for a reason. Human beings are designed to feel good. It's part of our evolution. So when you self-sabotage, you just want to comfort yourself. You just want to make yourself feel better. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you don't come to terms with the fact that there's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with you, and that you are not a bad person because of it, you will never transform it, because punishing it is a form of denial. The more you choose to punish yourself for doing it, or punish it yourself when you do it, or after you do it, or for doing it, the more you're denying it. And denying something never, ever, ever allowed you to transform it. You have to integrate it into the whole part of you. Like the two parts of me, the part that wanted to be taken care of by a rich man and the part that wanted to take care of myself, they were both me. I denied this part over here, or actually denied this part. I was happy with the part that wanted to be taken care of. No, that's not true. I was happy with the part that wanted to take care of myself. I wasn't happy with the part that wanted to be taken care of by a rich man. Okay. So I kind of denied this and pushed it away. But they were both me. They were both going for the same thing. So it was completely crazy to pretend that one didn't exist, or that one was bad, because they were both me. So how do you transform this? The first step is to understand what you're doing to yourself every time you choose fear over growth. What happens when you do this is you take apart your conscience. So every time, well, let me define conscience first. So Webster's dictionary defines conscience as internal or self-knowledge or judgment of right and wrong, or the faculty, power, or principle within us, which decides on the lawfulness or unlawfulness of our own actions and affections, and instantly approves or condemns them. Every time you make a choice that goes against what you want for yourself, or what you know to be good and right, a little part of you dies. A little part of you dies every single time you go against yourself. Nothing bad happens in the external world. Your body, your fight or flight response, your stimulus response patterns may believe something bad is going to happen. Your mom is going to punish you. Your father's going to punish you. The bad thing's going to happen. And that's why you're making your decisions. But that's not true. You can't pretend that anymore. So every time you go against yourself, a little part of you dies, because you're going against your own conscience. Keeping your inner word to yourself is how you overcome self-sabotage. For every time you let yourself off the hook, you destroy trust in yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, you have nothing. Nothing. Do you want to be the kind of person who's trustworthy, dependable, relied upon? Most people would say yes. But if you can't even keep your word to yourself, how on earth can you keep it to others? Successful people build character, and whole people who have integrated the two parts of themselves, or at least accepted them, are successful. I say I'm going to do something and I do it, talking about me personally here. So therefore, I'm very careful about what I say I'm going to do, because I know that when I commit, it will have to be done. So let me ask you, do you think deeply about something before you commit to it? Do you ask yourself if it's even going to be possible for you to do what it takes? People who do this recognize cause and effect. They see the far-reaching effects of their decisions and try to get as much data as possible before making a decision. This ties back into day one, where we talked about making decisions when you least feel like it, not when you are motivated, and planning for failure before it happens. People who do not self-sabotage know what they are choosing and why they are choosing it. Get at cause with your choices, know why you're choosing them, and watch your self-sabotage transform. The end. So let me just talk about that for a second and break that down. If you have any questions, let me know. Every time you make a promise to yourself that you're going to do something and then you don't do it, you break your word to yourself. It's like promising a child that you're going, like we've all seen this. If you promised a child that you were going to go to Disneyland, or we've seen it in movies where, you know, they characterize fathers, you know, in movies, and the father, you know, has maybe left the mother and the father have split up and the child's living with the mother, and the father, you know, says, you know, I'm going to come pick him up on Sunday at 2 p.m. And the child's like so excited because the father's coming. And then at 2 p.m. he calls the mother and he says, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't make it. Something's come up. And she knows that he's off like doing drugs or something. And she has to say to the child, I'm sorry, but your dad couldn't make it. And he's like, the child's super disappointed. And he's like, oh, that's okay, mommy, that's okay. And this happens again and again and again and again and again. And pretty soon the child learns to trust that the father isn't coming. So if the mom says, your dad's picking you up on Sunday at 2 p.m., the child goes, well, I don't know if he will or he won't. He knows he can't trust the father. In fact, the only thing he can trust is that the father is untrustworthy. This is kind of like what you do to yourself every time you make a promise to yourself and you don't uphold it. But we have to really examine and look at why we do this. Are we taking on too much? Are we promising things that we can't deliver? And a lot of this comes from, a lot of these answers come from a lot of self-reflection. And that's why we covered failure in the last 2 days as well, because I really want you to understand that failure isn't bad. This actually happened yesterday, actually, with Laura. And she won't mind me sharing this story. Laura Hutchinson, who works for me. And Laura came into my office and she was like, oh, do you have time to meet this week? Because we're launching a new program in September called the 4-week Shredded Body. It's a new competition. And she said, do you have time to meet this week? I know you're super busy, but do you have time to meet this week about the program? Laura's smiling. She's like, I'm always in the hot seat. And because she's so committed to growth. Laura's so committed to her personal growth. And so anyway, she said, do you have time to meet this week? And I said, you know what, Laura? I said, to meet this week would be really difficult for me, because I'm running these masterclasses. My husband's brother is overstaying from Australia with his husband, and we're going to Spain on Sunday, and it's like, or Saturday, and like, I am flat out this week. It's like, I really, truly, like, it would be hard for me to meet this week. Does it have to be this week? And she said, okay, this is really good data for me, because I've actually just realized that I have an issue or something's going on with this. And she said, I've already missed the deadline on this for Jamie. And I could actually, she said, you know, and she's already pushed the deadline out. And now the deadline was supposed to be today. She said, but I've left it until the very last minute to come to you to ask you, you know, for this meeting. And she immediately went into kind of beating herself up about it. Like, oh, I'm a bad person. I should have done this. And she's, which is amazing. Laura looked at all of the ways she was responsible for creating the situation where she's not only missed one deadline, she's missed two. And she didn't, you know, make it important enough to meet with me. And I said to her, hang on a wee second here. I said, that may be true, but let's just look at all the data, because there may be something you haven't considered from way back. And I said, so when you saw the deadline, I said, because whenever Jamie sets deadlines, Jamie's the director of operations in the company. Whenever she sets deadlines for things, Jamie sets them arbitrarily. Jamie looks at the launch date and she works backwards from there as to when the PDF needs to be delivered, to go into design, to go into testing, whatever. But she doesn't consider, neither would we expect her to consider Laura's time, Laura's coaching, Laura's commitments, Laura's shredding at the minute, Laura's cardio. She doesn't consider what it takes to produce the PDF, because that's not her job. That's Laura's job. And so I said to Laura, whenever Jamie gave you the date, did you look at the date and say, am I going to be able to meet that date? Did you look at all the things you have going on in your life and say, well, I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day and I have to prep my meals, and I also have to take the dogs to the dog park every night. But I also have to do coaching every week for Extreme Body Makeover, and I have to do a platinum coaching call, and I have to, you know, meet with Kim, and I have to, you know, coach the coaches, and I have to, you know, plan the self-sabotage, and I have to do the 28-day abs recordings every day. And so, you know, I said, do you look at all? And she was like, no. I said, so Jamie gave you a deadline and you were like, shit, must meet the deadline. You didn't actually evaluate whether or not it was possible for you to meet the deadline. She was like, no, I didn't. I said, so maybe that's something you need to work on. You need to work on being more at cause with your decision-making. And then going back to Jamie and saying, I've evaluated and I think that it's going to be possible for me to meet that deadline, but I've got this and this. Would it be possible for us to push it out? That's how you make a decision mindfully and you don't miss deadlines. And she was like, shit, right, okay, I got that. And I think the problem is a lot of us are making these decisions to, yeah, okay, Extreme Body Makeover, I'm going to do it. Or 4 weeks shredded body. I'm going to do 4 weeks shredded body. And I'm 100% going to commit to that. I'm going to be completely shredded in 4 weeks. I'm going to win the $40,000 prize fund or first prize. And we get all excited about it. And then we see the program and we go, holy fuck, 2 hours cardio a day plus 1 hour's training, plus there's only a list of 15 foods, plus we start to panic, right? We're like, oh my God, I get committed to this thing. And so rather than go, hang on a second, now I have more data, I'm going to have to reevaluate the situation here. We either go, I'm so bad, I'm so wrong, I can't even stick to a bloody, what's wrong with me? I can't stick to a program, this is terrible. And we have a wee tantrum inside, or else we give it our best shot for like 3 days, and our whole body hurts, and we're exhausted, and we're pissed off, and we're whatever. So we wake up in the morning and everything hurts, and you have to drag yourself out of bed, and then you're like, yeah, no way, this is far too hard, I'm not doing this. And then you're like, I'm such a bad person. I just sabotage myself all the time. I just can't even show up for myself and do whatever I said I was going to do. Really? Like, why would it be important for you to go there? Right? Why not just be like, oh, wow, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I've got a lot of data. Now, I've never imagined that the soles of my feet could hurt. But actually, now that I've been doing When It Comes program, I've realized it's possible for every single muscle in your body to hurt, even your ears. And really didn't have that data before. And now I'm going to have to reevaluate my decision to do this 4-week shred based on the fact that my ears hurt, right? So you have a lot more data. So rather than making it, you are bad and wrong, you decided to do something, you got a lot of data, you failed a lot. Now you're going to have to reevaluate your decisions based on the failure data that you got, okay? This is how we stop self-sabotaging. We are present in the moment. We are fully aware of our limitations. I am fully aware of my limitations. So when someone says to me, Kim, can I get your help with this? I say, I need you to tell me exactly what you need help with so I can make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to be able to help you. I just don't say, oh yeah, sure, no problem at all. And think, oh, I'll just make it work. And sure, if it doesn't work and I can't help the person in the end, it'll be fine. I'll just tell them I can't do it. That's how most of us make decisions. We say yes to everything. Yes. Oh yes, absolutely. And then, but we always leave like a wee get out clause in our mind. Oh, if I don't have time or I can't do that, I'll just, right. Okay. I'll just come up. How many of you do this? So this is just me. You come up with excuses in your mind. Well, if I'm not able to do it, I'll just say that I was really busy in work or that I had to go away that weekend, and we start giving ourselves all these ways out in our head because we're not willing to say, hang on a second. I'm not sure if I can do this. Let me evaluate the data and then I'll make a decision. That's how you stop self-sabotaging, because you make informed decisions about what is possible given your lifestyle and what is not. And that's how you move forward. And maybe the 4-week shredded body or the extreme body makeover just is not conducive for your lifestyle. Or maybe because in extreme body makeover, there was $100,000 first prize, you're willing to make it conducive to your lifestyle and give up some other things that are important to you to make room for it. That's a considered decision. That's how you stop self-sabotaging. And every time you promise yourself you're going to do something, or you promise someone else you're going to do something, and you give yourself a get out clause in your mind, or you're not actually sure if you really mean it or not, a little part of you dies. Your inner word to yourself is everything. If you can't even believe yourself, what do you have in this world? If you promise yourself every day that you're going to get up early and work out in the morning and you continually don't do it, you break a promise to yourself every single day. And that is just as bad, if not worse, at breaking a promise to a child. And if you have children, you will pass this trait on to your children because they will hear you say, I'm going to do this thing. And they will see you not doing this thing and giving yourself an excuse. And so then they will grow up believing that it's perfectly okay to say you're going to do something and not do it. And so we pass this on. We pass it on, and they pass it on, and they pass it on, and they pass it on. When you're the kind of person who shows up when they say they will, who does what it takes, and who doesn't overpromise and underdeliver, people believe you, and you become dependable and trustworthy and someone that other people can rely on. And more importantly, you become someone that you can rely on. Laura said to me last week, we were out for lunch, and she said to me, I know that you will do whatever it takes. She said, I never worry about the business, or said, I just keep my head down. I work on my, work on what I'm supposed to be doing. I do my job. And she said, because, we're growing the business at the minute. We're launching a new app in September. We have a lot going on. I have a massive amount of financial commitments. But she said, I never worry about the business or my job or anything, because I know that you will always do what it takes. And I looked her in the eye and I said, you're right. I will. I will always do whatever it takes, because the people around me believe that I'm the kind of person who will always do whatever it takes. And that is why I'm successful. And that is how you are going to overcome your self-sabotage and be successful as well. And you're not going to do it in one big go. You're not going to transform into Kim Constable overnight. It's going to take decision after decision after decision, because you have to build up trust in yourself. Trust is faith with data. Faith is where you think something might happen or you believe something to be true. Trust is faith with data. Faith is trust without data. I trust this person will happen, or this thing will happen, or this person will do this thing. But trust is faith with data. I have faith it will happen, and I have data that it will happen. Kim Constable will never let you down. She will do whatever it takes. And if you want to be that kind of person, you have to start making promises to yourself and keeping them. And if there's any doubt in your mind that you might not keep the promise that you've made to yourself, don't make the promise. Say to yourself, I say to my husband sometimes, I think I'm going to get up and train at 6 a.m. because I've got a really busy day tomorrow. But depending on how tired I feel in the morning, I might not. I don't say I'm getting up to train at 6 unless I am getting up to train at 6. And then I get up. I say I might get up to train at 6, depending on how I feel in the morning. And then I make the decision in the morning. And more often than not, I get up. Sometimes I don't, because genuinely I'm tired of a load of shit going on in my life right now. I'm juggling many, many things, and training at 6 a.m. I weigh that up against sleeping a little more, and the sleeping wins, or the resting wins, because that's what's necessary in order for me to do my life. But because I'm so at cause with the things that are necessary for me to run my life, and one of them is rest, I don't punish myself for resting. I see it as a necessary part of doing what I do every day. I feel like I should have an amen or something. Okay, so we got some exercises for you today. I feel like a school teacher here. Day 3, commitment to reality. This is your homework. I have another 30 minutes if somebody wants to play and do a little bit of the homework. Here is the exercise. I'll read it out to you. It's exactly the one that I was going through earlier. Describe the situation you're unhappy with. Example, I got pregnant after only 2 weeks of dating my boyfriend. Number 2, use the words I chose and write down all of the choices you made that brought you to this situation. So mine were, I chose to start my own company, I chose to ask for referrals, chose to meet Ryan for coffee, chose to get into a relationship, chose to have sex with him, chose to deny a fact I could get pregnant. Write down all the reasons. There's a spelling mistake in there. Hopefully someone caught it in the PDF. Write down all the reasons why you chose these things. And then, you run through it. And so this is because, so I chose to start my own company running NLP programs because I wanted to be rich and successful. I chose to ask for referrals because I was committed to running the business. So that's where you add in the because, and then this helps you to really get in reality with what you're choosing. That's it. Anybody want to play? Put your hand up if you do. Put your virtual hand up, your little yellow hand. Everyone's like, Risha, I see you have your hand up, but I'm going to go with someone else who I haven't spoken to yet. Heather S.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
So good. Thank you.
Good. I just got back from your side of the pond.
Oh, nice. Where were you?
London and then Paris.
Oh, so lovely.
Oh, the weather was perfect. Oh my gosh. Can't even. I know it's supposed to rain when you're in London, but it didn't. So we're happy.
Oh, that's so good. All the Brits ever talk about is the weather.
I know.
I was like, you got really good weather.
I did. It was amazing. Yeah. My daughter's 18 and first time she's been, it's been over 20 years since we've been international. So really cool to come back, but getting back on the horse.
Yes.
And
yes.
came right afterwards. Like we got back.
Tell
Sunday.
me, do you have a situation that you're unhappy with?
Really more my thing right now is I've been in recovery for 9 years. and I go through a lot of funks, and everything's like one extreme or the other. And I have to be very careful when it comes to whether it's self-sabotage or working out, because I'm also in the extreme makeover, or the other program right now going on.
Mhm.
And I love what you said, where I've joined programs with you before and then looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And trying to find the balance of not becoming addicted to the workout program. I've been like a Mrs. New York before. I've done a lot of these. I ran a gym before, but also learning to listen, I think, has been the hardest thing. And you're very clear in your PDFs, which I like, is just to put it down and listen to what you're saying. And one thing I wanted to share, being in recovery, that is part of the self-sabotage that I found, is some people, and I found it myself, are crisis junkies, where you stay in the perpetual cycle of something going wrong. So you're always in a crisis to then give you the excuse to stay in the sabotage. It's like a very vicious cycle of that. And
Heather, is this
to
the
try and
situation you're unhappy with that you want to talk about? I love your story and I don't want to cut you off, but I also am conscious I want to get through quite a few people. So I
yes,
just wanted to run through this specific exercise, if that's possible.
yes, really just
What
trying
situation are you unhappy with?
getting back to the weight that I was before and being in shape again. I've been there before, and post recovery, trying to get back to that has just been an internal cycle that I've been really unhappy with for a very long time.
So you're unhappy with your current shape.
Yes.
Okay. Because one of the really good, one of the things that we can do with this exercise that's really good is learning to be super precise as
Yes.
well, because I know what it's like. Like, listen, I love to talk, right? As you all know, thank God I do, right? Because it's helpful, but it's learning to be like super precise and really hone in, like, what is the situation I'm unhappy with? I'm unhappy with my current shape. Would that be accurate? Or current weight
Yes.
or current shape?
All of the above.
Which one? Choose one. Which is more unhappy?
Shape.
Okay, I'm unhappy with my current shape. Okay, using the words I chose, tell me all of the choices you have made that have brought you to this situation. So, and it has to be short sentences. I chose to such and such. I chose to such and such.
Chose to not eat what I'm supposed to. I chose to not wake up and work out when I know not that I should, when it was the right.
No, I chose to not to work out when I woke up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Those are really it. I chose to prioritize the wrong things over what was healthy for me. And then I chose to wallow.
Okay. So I'm gonna extrapolate this out a little bit for you. So you said that this happened after you were in recovery. So you were in a better shape before you were in recovery. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. So start with I chose after recovery. So take it right back to there and tell me the choices that you made up until that point.
Well, I chose to put down the drink. I went into recovery, but I chose to pick up food instead.
Okay.
And
I chose to comfort myself with food instead of alcohol.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. And then what else? Any more choices?
Well, that's been the main choice.
You said about working out as well. Like, have you been choosing rest over working out?
Sometimes I've been much better at choosing working out because it's been making me feel better. My bigger choice has been the food choices as opposed to the working out.
Okay.
So that's your program. I really enjoy working out. And so it's one of those things where if I have a choice, I'd almost rather go to the gym than choose a salad.
Okay. So so tell me all of the reasons why you chose these things. So I chose to comfort myself with food rather than alcohol because
it's an easy choice that I can't get in trouble. It's like alcohol has a much higher consequence immediately than food. And food is, I've been choosing food as my comfort since I was a teenager. And I've been having a hard time since then mitigating those choices because you can't not eat. And so every time I go to eat, that cross like that fork in the road is I keep choosing comfort over health.
Okay. So you choose comfort over health.
Yeah.
Okay.
The feeling good that
Why?
you were talking about.
Because why? Why do you choose comfort over health?
I'm an addict.
No,
I'm always looking for, there's always
no,
that initial, that release. I choose comfort, and the comfort is that psychological.
because you want to
Just
feel better.
Mhm.
You want to feel better. Is there anything wrong with wanting to feel better?
No,
So why do you punish yourself for it?
that's why I'm here.
Tell me, why do you punish yourself for it?
Just expectations and the role that I'm in, leadership. Put a lot of pressure on myself.
What role is it you're in?
Oh, um, my husband and I run a church, and so a lot of eyes on me all the time.
Do you feel a certain um you feel you have to maintain a certain standard or image?
Yeah, and I've been like this. We've run businesses before, and so it's also um, not just the people. It's expectation within my relationship of maintaining that promise. And it's been a lot of broken promises over the years, and so that I've been there before, and I've gotten there, and then I've let it go, and so I feel like I'm letting people down because I can't get back to what I used to be able to do.
Do
And
you
so
think that the people who attend your church are this is a silly question, but it's good to ask. Do you think that they're perfect? Do you think that they're not flawed? Oh, she's frozen.
group, and I know they don't care as much about things that I care about.
Sorry, you
That's why I
froze.
know it's
You
more on
froze slightly.
myself.
So you froze. So I missed the start. But so the people who
Oh,
attend
yes,
your
yes,
church, the
sorry.
people who attend your church, who you lead for, for better want of a word, do you feel that they are perfect? Do you feel
No,
that they
and
are
that's
not
really
flawed?
our mantra, is we know that we're not. And I'm very clear about and open about the fact that I'm in recovery and that I know I'm not perfect. It's more that internal, um, that those promises to myself. And I
The
think that's where
problem
you hit
is,
there.
the problem is, you're not perfect, but there's a part of you still believes that you should be.
Yes. Yeah.
But what if by denying that part of yourself, you're actually doing your church a disservice?
Oh,
What
yeah.
what if a true leader stands up, because you are standing up and saying you're flawed, but it feels like when I try it on that it's more of a protective thing. I'm flawed, don't judge me because I'm already judging myself. I know that
Yeah.
I'm flawed, and so just so you're all aware, I'm aware of my flaws. So if any of you feel like you want to judge me, no need, because I'm already judging myself.
Yep. No, I've already said that. I beat myself up better than anyone else. Yep.
What if the best leaders actually stand up and say, I know I'm flawed and I accept that I'm flawed and I'm doing my best every single day. And if you want to judge me for that, there's nothing I can do about it, because you're not actually judging me. You're just judging the part of yourself that you have deemed
Mhm.
to be bad,
Well, I say that, but I
but
don't
you don't
believe
really
that.
mean it. Right. What
No.
would it take for you to believe it and mean it?
I don't know.
What would it take for you to accept that you're not actually bad, that you are just a perfect human? Like if you could take little Heather on your knee You could take little Heather on your knee and you could have a conversation with her and you could say, you know what, Heather? It's okay. I know you're hurting, but life's hard and life hurts. And sometimes you're going to develop coping strategies to take away the pain. But whenever you're older, whenever you're a big girl, Heather, you will be able to cope with the pain because you'll be an adult. It's hard when you're young, but when you're older, you can make different choices, better choices. But right now, I know that it's painful, but we're going to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever want to sit little Heather on your knee and say to her, you know what? There is a part of you that is bad, but it's okay because you're going to be able to control it whenever you grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You wouldn't ever want to say that, would you? You would like, if it's a child, you would totally say, I know that this is hard. And I know that you sometimes do bad things, but that's okay because we all do bad things.
Yep.
And learning to accept the fact that we all do bad things is actually the thing that transforms us and that can influence and transform others.
Yeah, just have to keep digging at that. Done some, but like I said, I think believing it's easy to say it.
Not
And
even
I
believing
never
it.
considered it as a protective mechanism.
It's not believing it, Heather. It's not
Yeah.
believing it. It's forgiving. It's
Yeah.
forgiving yourself.
Yep.
It's, you got to forgive little Heather for whatever she did that caused you to want to cover up the pain into adulthood. Whatever she did that she believed was really, really bad. It wasn't true. She wasn't bad. She just wanted to feel better.
Yep.
Can you think of, is something coming to mind that you don't have to share it, but can you think of something in your mind where
Oh,
it
yeah.
just reminds you of something?
No,
Do
yep.
you want to tell me about it?
No, it was just a rough childhood in general. I'm just stepmother. My mom didn't raise me and left.
She left.
So we have a relationship now, but I think the abandonment, that whole,
Yeah. What was the worst part?
well, being told certain things growing up.
No, what was the worst part about the abandonment?
So that was an accident too. So that's when you were like, the contraceptive thing was really funny. My mom actually lied, saying she was pregnant to then get married. And then there I was. And so she didn't, she was given the opportunity to leave and then stay gone. And so I reconnected with her in my 20s. But I think having a parent, oh my God, I'm going to cry this much today.
It's good. It's good. Let it out. I know this is really hard, but you're doing really, really well.
Not want you.
Right.
And then validate that at a certain point is a hole that's very hard to fill.
I get it.
And so that perpetual trying to like improvement or put out a version of myself that's loved by others allows it's a mask, it's trying to fill that. And
Heather, what if it's not true that your mother didn't want you?
well, the problem is she told me as much. So I mean,
doesn't matter. It's not, what if? So here's the thing, right? Human beings make decisions because human beings choose the easiest path. Okay. And it wasn't that she didn't want you. And I really want you to try this on. Okay. Because this is gonna help if you can really try it on. And we're short on time. So I don't want to not go there because I led you into it and I can't leave you hanging now. And I'm sorry if I hope this is okay with everybody, but whenever human beings are so flawed and we make decisions based on how we're feeling in the moment. And it wasn't that It wasn't that your mother didn't want you. Your mother didn't want the effects of her
Mhm.
causes.
Yeah.
You were an effect. So your mother made a decision, and you broke up a little bit whenever you were telling a story, but
Mm.
I got the gist of what you're saying. Your mother made a decision, the effect of which was she got pregnant.
Mhm.
She didn't want to look at her decision and what it meant that she had made this decision. And then whenever she got the effect, she denied the effect.
Mhm.
She wasn't denying you. She was denying the effect of her decision.
Well, and then now she's proud of me now that I've done something with my life. It's like, well, that's great. So
No, she's just evolved into a different person
yeah,
now, where
now I know.
she can acknowledge the effects of her decision. But what if it
Mm.
that was that your mom didn't want you? What if your mom was just so flawed and in so much pain that she couldn't choose you, because choosing you would have meant that she had to look at the decision she made, which caused you. And she didn't want to look at that because it was too painful. I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's what was going on. The
Yeah.
only reason, if I try it on, the only reason I can deny a child and tell them it's their fault is because I don't want to accept responsibility for the decision that I made that caused this child to come into the world.
Yep. That sounds about right.
So what if it was nothing to do with you and
Mhm.
everything to do with your mom's disintegration that caused her to reject you?
Yep.
Can you accept that?
Yep.
Really?
I'll work on it.
No, no, no.
But
I really want you to
no, it's a
try
good
it. I
perspective.
really want you to try it because I have another piece I want to give you. I really want you to try it
Yep.
on. Can you try it on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What if then you had have known when you were a little girl that as painful as the situation was, that you actually didn't need your mom?
Mhm.
You didn't need your mom to take care of you because you always had you.
Mhm.
Because you made it here. You made it here imperfectly and flawed and with addictions and in a imperfect body, but you made it into adulthood and you've managed to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
As little kids, we believe we need someone to take care of us because the world is so scary, and it really feels like we do. I'm not judging it. I felt, and the reason why I can tell you this is exactly the same thing happened to me. I was having a session
Mhm.
with my coach and I was remembering lying in bed in boarding school and breaking my heart because I wanted my mom so badly. And she said to me, what if that was just how you were comforting yourself?
Mhm.
The crying was how you comforted yourself. Because what happened after you cried? And I said, well, I felt better. She said, right. What if you were comforting yourself? And what if you thought, and like in a perfect world, your mom would have been different, Heather. She would have loved you and taken care of you and given you all of those things that you thought that you needed. And that would have felt so good. But what if you had have known as a little girl that you could have felt good anyway
Mhm.
without those things? Because you always had you.
Yep.
What would have been
Well, and
different if you hadn't known that?
that's the balance of self-sabotage, but self-sufficiency. And that and that's part of the addiction. I've over relied on myself because I didn't have that. And so I had to learn how to like overly take care of myself. So I think that's where it's a lot easier to help others than help myself, and
What would
like
have
you
been
said.
different if you had have known as a little girl first of all, that your mom didn't reject you? Can you really try that on?
Oh, it'd be very different. Yeah, yeah.
She didn't reject you. She rejected the part of
The
herself that she
situation.
saw when she looked at you.
Mhm.
Do you see what I
Yep.
mean? She
Mhm.
rejected her own decisions. She rejected how she got pregnant. She rejected, it was like me with the crack in the plate. Kim,
Mhm.
successful entrepreneur, hardworking. Kim, the person who wants to be taken care of. I completely rejected this side.
Yep.
Completely rejected it. Your mom had these two sides of herself. And when she got the effects of this side, she rejected it. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
that was a little girl who thought she needed her mother's love,
Yep.
who would have been better with her mother's love, but your mom just wasn't able to give it.
Mhm.
What would have been different if you had known that? Try and stay with it.
Yeah. No, I
That's
think a
a
lot
challenge.
more on self-love. I think I would have, that would have I would look at myself differently.
It might not have been any easier,
No,
and you still would have craved the love, but knowing that you didn't need it to survive.
well, clearly I'm here. That's proof. So I can go back and write a letter to little Heather, say, we made it. It's all right.
Yes, we made it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Guys, you know what happens whenever someone has an integration, which is what has just happened? You have like an outburst of emotion. You either laugh or you cry, or you like there's sometimes someone's face flushes or changes. That's how you always know when someone's had a integrated two parts of themselves, is because you have like a you have like one of those moments. Heather, you are so brave and so beautiful and so worthy of love.
Well, thank you for what you do. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. I couldn't do what I do unless I had you guys. I wish I could give you a big hug.
Yep. Well, next time I'm across the pond.
Yes. Let me
I'll let you
know.
know.
Let me
Yes.
know how let me know. Check in with me in the group. Let me know how it goes with the addiction and the self-sabotage in the future, because you may find that some of it shifted. You might not, but try it on and let me
Baby steps.
go back.
Definitely.
Go back for a second though and try it on now. Try on what you described about your mom rejecting you. Does it feel different when you try it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I haven't put them together in that direction before. So
So what we did there was, that's called a stimulus response pattern. You had a stimulus and a response, but what we did was we broke it. We broke the stimulus response. So it'll never, once you've broken a stimulus response pattern, it doesn't come back again.
yay.
Just keep looking for the next ones, because believe me, we all have hundreds of them.
Yeah, Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Heather, I think that was just perfect. I love that you let me go there with you. Thank you so much for letting me do that. I think that was just like, that really pulled all of this together. But you guys see how deep you have to go with this in order for it to be effective. Like, you have to be willing to bare your soul to yourself in these questions, and really just dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. And the deeper you can dig into the hurt and the pain, the more you can integrate it, because you don't actually need someone else to integrate you. By going back and reliving the really painful situations through journaling and really sitting with them, you can actually then see them from it. Because all that happens with an integration like that is, whenever you go back into a childhood memory that was really, really painful, you write it down, you then see it and assess it from your adult integrated perspective. So the disintegrated behavior that existed as a child, you start seeing it from an integrated adult perspective, and it changes. But it only changes if you're willing to really, truly go deep into the real pain of what happened. But if you can do that, and then you can assess it from an adult perspective through journaling, that's why journaling is so powerful. But we're gonna wrap all this up tomorrow. I'm gonna give you guys some strategies for how you can use this. And then, excitingly, we were talking the other day, I'm not sure how we're going to make it happen, but we're talking about maybe making this like a more regular thing. Like, I was talking to you guys yesterday about creating some kind of low cost monthly subscription to these Zoom calls, where we would go either live once a week or once every 2 weeks. I don't know what I could commit to with my schedule, but that we do like almost like an emotional gym. So we start to build an emotional gym. So if you guys would be interested in that, you can let me know as well. This was amazing. I feel so blessed and so honored to be a part of this. Thank you for letting me teach it. Thank you for being here today, all of you. Thank you, Heather, for being so incredible. And
thank you everyone. If you raise your hand, to know it took a lot of time. So appreciate.
No, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. There was nothing, you have nothing to apologize for. It was perfect. And we'll see you all tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. Last session for now. And then next week as well, guys, or not next week, the week after, I think I'm probably going to do a live Q&A in the group as well, just to kind of in the Facebook group, just to bring some stuff together. So, but we'll announce that as well. Okay, guys, coaches, team, thank you so much for being here. All of you, you know who you are. Really appreciate you. Everybody, all my team, give a wave. See you again. Yeah, there they all are. And everyone else is waving too. Like, we're all part of the team. We're all part of the team. Hi. All right, guys. Love you all loads. A huge kiss for you. And see you all tomorrow. Okay. Bye.